I was born in Daegu, which is third biggest city in South Korea. And I'm not from music family, but my parents are a big fan of classical music. So I started to play piano when I was 3 years old, and I started to play violin when I was 13 years old. And I started to play haegeum when I was 17 years old. When I grew up, I listened more Western classical music because my parents are very big fan of classical music, and and also my sister and I played classical Western instruments first. So yeah, when I grew up, I listened classical music. Then when I entered college, I expand my repertoires like pop songs and the K-pop and traditional Korean music too. My work represents a different cultural background from Korea, and this opportunity will expose haegeum and Korean traditional music to new audiences. And also, the haegeum's technique will introduce to performance of Western string instruments. So it was truly collaboration with fellow musicians because I did not only compose this music, also I played with them. And, and I think maybe the Kronos Quartet believes in my potential to grow. The 50 for the Future project is passionate about creating new opportunities for emerging musicians. So I think this applies to me as an emerging composer. So they set a new platform for me to explore. So I am very honored. I've never thought that I'd become a composer myself. This is my first piece, and when I just met David, and it clicked. When I had a first meeting with David Harrington, he asked me to bring haegeum, and he wants to see and listen haegeum sound. So I brought a haegeum to him, and he asked me if I am a composer, and I said no, and he asked me if I do improvise, and I did improvise. Then he asked me again to improvise on top of my improvisation because he recorded with his phone. So I did that, and he really liked it, and he asked me to write a piece for string quartet, and I was really shocked. But at the same time, of course, I'm flattered. And his idea was that, and I played 5 different layers, and then recording and transcribe it later. When I prepared this composition, I didn't write down anything, and because David encouraged me to improvise throughout the process. So I spent time immersing myself in new works for string quartet by listening and practicing and studying 50 for the Future's previous compositions. And it was really helped me to figure out how to create the music that was innovative yet authentic to my cultural background. I realized I cannot put all I wanted for them to play in the paper or in the computer. So we talked, and then we decided to make a performance practice demo, the video. So I hope the performers who will play my music in the future, they can learn from that demo, the video, and haegeum performance practice. then hopefully it will helpful for them to learn this piece. When I began to compose this piece, record this piece, I used 3 different types of hegum, regular and alto and bass hegum. And alto and bass hegum is recent addition. It's not commonly used. But using these 3 different types of hegum gave me more accurate sense of the piece sound with like violin, viola, and cello. If I use only hegum, one hegum, and transposed into different ranges later on, it would not have had a deep sense of where the piece is going. And this created very active process that kept me on my feet. Of course, they are Kronos, and they did a really, really great job. And if they have some questions, and we talked a lot, and then I feel like we rehearsed pretty much. So we tried to figure out the solution together. And also, it was really helpful for me to understand the Western string instrument as well. Please find the beauty in improvisation. Traditional Korean music is founded on improvisation. However, today most of music is transcribed. But I hope to revive this original method. I want for young musicians to experience this revelation to their own right and be confident in trying new things. When I composed this piece, I stepped out of my shell and I forced myself to experience this liberating process the improvisation has to offer. And in my piece, there are a lot of improvisation sections. So I am very looking forward to enjoying how the future musicians will complete it. Recently, I moved to this Bay Area, and I had lots of opportunities to give workshops at schools here and there. And I had a chance to meet a lot of young composers, student composers, and they were very creative, and they found new sonic possibilities of hegum and even new extended techniques. So I do teach them, and also I learn from them. So I am very inspired by young, very experimental and innovative students. There are so many different styles and genres of music out there in the world. And I come from the culture which has very rich musical lineage. And I urge young musicians to experience this time to explore different backgrounds and expand their musical knowledge and interests and tastes. And I believe young musicians hold a lot of power for future preservation of traditional music, that they don't go extinct or become museum artifacts, rather than stay alive and continue on legacies. And I hope the nature of this music can make a bridge between cultures and break down any walls. This is a hegum. Hegum has only 2 strings. And hegum strings are made of twisted silk, so it's very soft and flexible. So when we do vibrato, we can do very wide vibrato too. And the bow always duct between two strings like this. And this is a sound box is made of wood. And when we tune, we keep the perfect fifth. But traditionally we didn't use open string system, so we don't have specific tuning system. So we just keep perfect fifth between two strings. Now I will show briefly about the Hegum sound.